Hello everyone and welcome to CGTalksPlus.com, and you're on the 7th day of our introduction to Vue 9 xStream. So today what we're gonna see is the animation in Vue. So it's composed of three main streams that are the animation wizard, the key animation, and the settings to render animations. Okay, so let's get started and switch back to Vue. Here we are. So I've prepared the scene. This is an object you can find in your collections, so you just load it and it's there. So let's select our object, okay, and I'm gonna just click on this clap icon here, and it will automatically open this animation setup wizard. So here in the main screen, it will explain you what's the animation wizard. But if you want to read it, you can go. Well, just click on next, and now the animation setup wizard will ask me to choose a type of vehicles. So a type of vehicle here, for example, we have some airborne vehicles, airplane, helicopter, etc. And here we have ground vehicle as automobile, motorbike, etc. So I'm going to choose an automobile here. You can also click on the options to define the motion options as the roll sensitivity, the acceleration sensitivity. If you do in some races or so, you can here define this to create some specific animations here. Okay, so now it asks me about the repeat mode. If I want to play an animation on once or repeat it, loop it, or pendular, so it plays all the animation, then it plays it backward. So okay, now I'm gonna choose on repeat maybe. In this category here, it asks me about the main axis, which how the object should be oriented relative to the direction of travel. So here it's on minus y, but I want it to go on minus x-axis, so here it is. And next it asks me about the constant velocity. So here the speed mode, sorry. Here we have constant velocity, and here we have the ease in, ease out. So we have an acceleration, then a deceleration. Okay, so I'm gonna stay on constant velocity and click on next. Here we have the spin. Okay, so for example, you can see here the movement. But if I, for example, wanted to create a crash or so, I can use some spin, and here I can define the how much degrees it will turn in second. For example, if I get high values, you can see it will spin faster. So also you can use a curve here if you want to, for creating your animation. If you want to use the ease in, ease out, you can do it. I'm gonna just create here to smooth the curve, and then I'm gonna move this point. I'm gonna create a new point right there, move it here, add a new point here, and I'm gonna move it, for example, right there, and I'm gonna take this one like this, and here is the ease in and ease out. And as you can see, it spins and then rapidly, and then it gets slower. Okay, so but I don't want spin. And here we have the vibrate. This option will cause the object to vibrate automatically around one or for all of its axes. Okay, here we have some vibration. For example, when you're going at so much high speed, you have this vibration here of the car. Okay, so here you can define on which axis it will spin, but I think we'll not use it. Okay, so you can here define the vibration frequency, how much it will vibrate, and the intensity of the vibration. As you can see here, it's pretty much vibrating. Here you can see we have high vibration, which I don't want. Okay, so I'm gonna take it down. Okay, we don't want vibration. I'm gonna deactivate it. Click on next, and here I have a screen which will give me the ability to define the path of my animation. Okay, so here I can click on add waypoint and then draw simply my my way. So I'm gonna delete this one and create a better way. Okay, so just like this. You can also use the control plus to zoom in and zoom out, or just use your usual mouse button space here to move, or control plus and minus. Okay, so add new point. So I'm gonna add a point right here. Okay, so it will goes. It's not very advanced here, but you can do your animation here. The pen the pen tool here is quite simple. So we have something like this. Okay, and I'm gonna add again just to create some variation in the animation. Okay, and then I'm gonna just move it right here, something like this. Okay, something like this, and then I'm gonna click on next, and here we have the processing. So if you'll define the height of or for example, if you have an airborne vehicle, it will define the altitude of the path so that your object will not collide or hit other objects. Here you have the processing object path, and it's finished. We have the plot of object altitude. Here it will define the maximum altitude of our objects, and then it will trace the path, and so that it doesn't your airborne object will not collide with the other object. Here I will define the duration of my animation. So the more duration, the more the calculation phase that will come will be longer. So for example here 11 seconds. So okay, and here you can see how my vehicle will be animated. Okay, I'm gonna click on next, and then here you have some explanation on timeline, but I'm gonna explain how it does really work. Okay, so I'm gonna click on finish, and then I'm gonna just hope my PC will hold the thing. So okay, now I'm gonna zoom out. Okay, sorry, it's too much here. Okay, I'm gonna zoom like this. I don't know why my object is not being seen. So here it is, and next I'm gonna just click on my object so you can see the path and my car, and I'm gonna click on play, and you can see on the animation that our car imitation or motion is pretty much realistic and well done. So with some improvements and adding some vibration, etc., you can see that we get pretty nice and really cool animations in no time, as you can see here. For example, it's pretty well done. The animation is pretty well. Maybe the mesh is a bit dense, so I'm gonna just replace my object here by right clicking just to save some resources, and load object. Okay, and I'm gonna load this Mercedes here. Actually Vue crashed and I had to restart it and use a new path and new vehicle, but now I think it's alright. So I'm gonna just show you the animation again, and as you can see it's pretty well represented here. So you can see it's very interesting, especially at this moment here. You can see that it does really act like a real car, which is turning here. Okay, so let me explain a bit about this timeline. It's pretty easy to understand. Here you have the common buttons: play, stop, forward, and go to end and go to beginning. Here we have these three buttons here, which will show and hide the properties. So you curve animation. Here also it will here for the curve animation you'll display show or hide the splines you use, and finally you have the show or hide preview. Okay, so here if we click this button, Vue will generate preview of our animation. Okay, and you can by this button show it or hide your animation. Okay, so let's see how it does actually look. Yeah, it's taking a bit of time. Okay, so right, and if you take a closer look here, you can see our vehicle which is moving. So you can, by clicking this button here, show or hide your preview animation. Here you can control the position of your slider, this slider here. Here you have to enable or disable keyframing option. You can right click and choose one of these options, or just left click. The two do the same. Say you can activate auto keyframing and add the keyframe to all properties, etc. You can add the position keyframe, orientation keyframe, etc. Pretty basic. These are the keyframes. So for example, here I'm not come over there here, and let's take this one here and move it, and as you can see it does actually move the path and the type of animation for our vehicle here. So you can easily modify your animation here because of the keyframe. And here you have also the generate preview and the preview option. You can right click to open the animation preview option, how the preset render quality, the preview frame rate, so how much frames will be rendered for a second, and the preview size. You can choose your size here. It will be, if you are 1 it will be this size, at 2 the double, and 4 it will multiply this size by 4. You can save your current preview or discard the current preview. And here you have the render animation and advanced animation options. So before going to parametering or setting your animation rendering, we're gonna see a little bit about keyframe animation. So for example, now what I'm gonna do is take all of these and press on delete, so it will completely delete our path. And what I'm gonna do now is zoom on my car. So what is keyframe animation? So the keyframe animation is pretty basic. For example, if I wanted to my car, so sorry for this, if I wanted my car to move just from here to there, then I'll use keyframe animation. Okay, for example, let me will define the, sorry, I'm gonna just go back here. Sorry, here it's the time of your animation. So for example, I'm gonna go to 0. Here we have actually our main camera which has been animated, so I'm gonna delete it, and I'm gonna go to time 0 and move then my camera. Okay, so it's okay, alright, something like this. I'm gonna just put it on the ground. Okay, so I'm gonna get a bigger size and put my car on the ground. Okay, and now what I'm gonna do is animate my car. So I'm gonna go from 0 to like 2 seconds and then move my car on this axis here, and it will automatically generate a path. Okay, so let's take a look at it from the top, and you can see how actually Vue created my my path, sorry. And for example, at what second I want it to basically do something like this, okay? And Vue will automatically interpolate the distance between these two here. And but in keyframe animation, you'll not have the rotation of your object, etc. So you have to manually rotate your object and create it. For example, here we need, for example, to zoom in and use the rotation tool and rotate our car like this. So it will, as you can see, these are some problems of not some constraints of the keyframe animation here. As you can see, as you get over here, it's staying incorrect, so you have to correct it, and then I think you're gonna have some decent animation here. And then let's zoom in a bit, get in higher and higher, and then apply the animation to see how it does. Look, the blue line here, the yellow line here, sorry, will define the range of your animation, which range will be applied. If I just click here, you can see that I apply till here and it stops, okay? So you can modify it as you want here, and I'm not create my little animation here, and as you can see, it's looking decent. Okay, so I'm not click here to generate a preview. And as you can see here, I'm gonna just make it go by 4 and generate my preview again. And as you can see here, we have the animation for our car. Pretty decent, huh? Okay, so I think we've covered what is key animation. Next, I'm gonna speak about some of the advanced animation option. So here we have the flicker reducing. So you reduce flickering. For example, in glasses, you have some light that flicker, and you have distance blurring. If you are interested to hide some background problems or something, you can use the distance blurring, or just to render realistic scene, you can use the distance blurring, field interlacing. And here we have the pixel aspect ratio. This depending on your support for animation. If you're creating an animation, for example TV, you have to use these settings here, for example, to define the NTSC and PAL, or use other XY ratio. You have the automatic illumination baking, so it will bake the illumination. These are pretty self-explained. And here we have, if we clicked here, if we just left clicked on this button here, we have the animation render option, and here you can define the preset render quality, so at which quality the rendering will be. So OpenGL, Preview, Final, Broadcast is generally made for animations, and here you have Superior and Ultra if you want to do something really high quality, for example posters, etc. Here you can choose Broadcast and choose the path where you're gonna save your channel files. Here, for example, for the color path, you're gonna press browse and define your path where your color channel will be saved. And you can choose also the format options here to modify. Here actually it's AVI, but I'm not here. You can choose any one of type. I recommend using JPEG or PNG or Targa or any one of these, so you can resume your renderings even if you use pausing or resuming render options. So you can also save the alpha and the depth. you can define the frame padding. So this I didn't really use it because I think it's useless, or just for a lot of files with the same name. For example, as you reduce the padding, you'll see that the names change, and the number of, and if you raise it, the number will automatically raise. Here we have the gbuffer multi-passes. If you want to render some passes here, you can generate gbuffer and use the UV coordinate and render any of this channel if you're interested. Generally, I render the Z depth, material ID, normals, rarely normals. If just I want to export the material or so to 3ds Max, color, velocity for creating some blur, motion blur, etc. But I don't really use it a lot. Next we have the frame rate. This is pretty simple and self-explained. Here we have the frame resolution, the time code on frames if you add if you want to enable the time code, and here you have the render if you want an internal render, or use external render and choose Hyper-V Network Manager or a local standalone render, and render node network. So I generally use the internal render unless I'm doing some integration with 3ds Max where I use Mentoray. So you can also access the advanced animation options by clicking here. Okay, I think we covered pretty much everything of our animation in Vue. So I think it's pretty easy doing some animation. You can try yourself, modify some things. Just I wanted to point to is you can also add a source of wind if you wanted to here, and as we've seen in the atmosphere here, if I click F4 for the wind here, define its properties. Okay, you can also animate sea level. I'm not just right click and create sea here. You can also animate the sea here. Animate the sea here. I just rise a bit the level here. You can animate the sea by double clicking here and doing some keyframe animation here, for example here, and I can move this one here, and it will create for you an animation as you can see. Okay, so this pretty basic settings. We also seen how to animate wind, the sea. I think we covered pretty much everything of animation in Vue, so you can experiment yourself, document yourself. This was a brief introduction, so see you in the next day, which will be about the rendering settings, and the last day will be about integration with 3D Studio Max and some architectural designs, etc., for getting some specific sense. So I hope you enjoyed and learned something. See you next time.